From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Coming up on Montana This Morning, communities trying to rebound from flooding now have a wildfire to worry about.
I think everybody's still on their toes and ready to move.
Plus, law enforcement officials are watching their backs.
I myself have been notified by the Bureau that my life was put in danger.
And with Wyoming's primary on the horizon, new numbers show Liz Cheney falling further behind in the polls. All right, and good morning and welcome to Montana This Morning on this Monday, August 15th. Well, new this morning, we're taking you inside a local daycare center with one very distinct difference from its competitors. For more on this story, we're going to bring in our own Diane Parker. Good morning, Diane.
Well, good morning. I mean, this is a great story for a Monday morning, very cheery and happy. And if you go ahead and step inside a new daycare in Billings, it is a lot like a scene from the movie Daddy Daycare, only Mr. Michael's classroom is a lot less chaotic and a lot more organized than Eddie Murphy's. However, this business, though, it is still an outlier in this industry that is completely dominated by women.
Rat is big and hairy and ugly. Rats.
First Things Childcare is kind of a retro, old school place.
It's also kind of a rarity. We wanted to know just how rare daddy daycares are in Montana, but the state DPHHS office doesn't track the statistic. But Mr. Michael believes he's one of just a few Montana men teaching phonics and reading, and perhaps even more rare, no TVs or tablets.
I love that they don't have screen time. It's mind-blowing the fact that he gets homework sent home daily with words written out. He's reading, he's writing, he just turned 5.
While impressive, they're also learning to love the outdoors in true daddy daycare style.
Hayden, if you want to dig in the dirt now, you can get dirty.
Oh, put that in my hand.
They're learning about bugs. I mean, my kids, deathly afraid of spiders. These kids, are you afraid of spiders? No. You're not, right? Oh, okay. One person afraid of spiders, but you know what I've heard all day being out here is that they love bugs. They told me about roly-polies, they told me about yellow jackets.
While Mr. Michael doesn't represent the traditional nurturing image that may come to mind, he certainly has a fan club.
What will you miss about this place when you go to kindergarten?
So much.
So much. From the time I pick him up to the time we get home, he just has stories galore of what they did at school. It takes a special person to work with children. It really does. So we found our special person. We're not going anywhere. We absolutely love this place.
All right, those kids do love that place, Andrea. They love the bugs. They also told me that occasionally they will throw a snowball at Mr. Michael's, and he's totally cool with it, right?
Yeah, it's so hard to find daycare as it is, so it's nice to see that there's yet another option.
Yep.
Out there.
Right, another unique option.
All right. Thanks, Diane, so much for that. So you have more that you're working on for later in the show. Tell us about that.
Right. There's a lot coming up, some national, international news. I'll bring you the latest on another congressional trip to Taiwan and more on a potential deal between North and South Korea.
All right, sounds good. We'll see you soon, okay?
All right, see ya.
Okay, we have more information this morning on that deep draw fire. This is the one raging in East Bridger. It has grown to 650 acres just overnight, still 0% contained. A flame started by a lightning strike on Friday evening. There is some ranch land and a few cabins in the vicinity. 160 firefighters are battling those flames. They believe they will keep it away, but still there's concerns for many residents of a town still dealing with that flood recovery.
Fire is definitely not helping anything around here. Stay safe out there and come by and get a coffee. We'll hook you up for a free coffee. We like to take care of our firemen, and that's taking care of us.
Montana DNRC is leading this fight with local crews assisting. Last night, crews responded with aerial attacks. That's because that terrain is pretty difficult to navigate. And bringing Miller in now, it's tough to see fires come close to communities, but it sounds like it is still farther away. So hopefully conditions will just be in the favor of firefighters too.
Hopefully so. Yeah, fingers are crossed for us. You know, we've been very lucky here in Billings. We've seen a little bit of smoke, but for the most part, it hasn't been much of a issue, except for my friends who do have respiratory ailments. And the air quality today, we're going to stay with moderate. So for most of us, won't even notice, but some that do have those respiratory ailments, maybe a little smoke out there. So use caution if you're heading outdoors today. Take a look at the almanac. Yesterday, our high of 88, pretty much on par where we should be. Overnight low, a little bit milder. than normal. Top gust at the airport 22 yesterday. No rain yesterday, but on Saturday night, near 3/10 of an inch falling at the airport, and that really helped bring us up to speed for the month, which has started off on a dry note. We're at 0.41 inches for the month, 12 inches for the year, so we're basically where we should be monthly, and for the year we're still pacing ahead, so we're in pretty good shape out there in terms of the moisture. Great shot looking down King Avenue as the sun slowly rises across Yellowstone County. 65 at the airport, little mild start out there. We should be in the upper 50s right now. Humidity at 68%, dew points at 54. Winds out of the west at about 3 miles an hour. Temperatures mainly in the 50s and 60s this morning. We do have some 40s off to our west, even some 70s off to our east. Highs today mainly in the 90s. We're going to see our hottest days tomorrow and Wednesday. Then a bit of a cool down on the way. We are seeing some rain out there this morning. We'll tell you about that and if you have any more in the forecast coming up.
All right, sounds good. Even though the temperature drops just a slight bit into the lower 90s, it almost feels like you can feel the cooler temperature. I don't know what
it makes a little bit of a difference. It does, yeah.
Yeah, not quite as hot. All right. Miller, thanks so much.
Okay.
We'll see you soon. All right, voters in Wyoming are gearing up to head to the polls for that primary election. It's going to be in the national spotlight. Of course, Wyoming's Liz Cheney facing an uphill battle against challenger Harriet Hageman. The latest polls have Cheney down 20 points. Hageman out fundraising Cheney by more than $500,000. Cheney brought in more than $9 million from out-of-state donors. So far, 7 of the 10 House Republicans who voted to impeach Donald Trump over January 6 either retired or they were defeated in their primary elections. Happening later this morning, Billings Police Chief Rich St. John will answer some questions about a weekend police shooting that landed a suspect in the hospital. Officers responded to a domestic incident late Friday night at a home at the 1800 block of 6th Street West. Police say a 22-year-old man pointed a gun at them and they fired back. The suspect's condition is unknown, and the chief's press conference begins this morning at 11:30. FBI agents across the country are facing an onslaught of threats after the search of former President Donald Trump's Florida home. CBS's Bradley Blackburn reports lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are now demanding transparency.
It's outrageous rhetoric.
The FBI and Department of Homeland Security are on high alert following the search of former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate last week.
Everybody needs to respect our law enforcement, whether they be local, state, or federal.
A joint intelligence bulletin sent to law enforcement across the country warned of a threat to place a so-called dirty bomb in front of FBI headquarters and general calls for civil war and armed rebellion. Other threats are also circulating online. Former FBI agent turned Pennsylvania Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick discussed the development on Face the Nation.
I myself have been notified by the Bureau that my life was put in danger recently by some of these same people.
The warrant, unsealed Friday, detailed agents retrieved close to 24 boxes of material containing 11 sets of classified documents, some marked top secret.
Anyone in the intelligence community that had documents like that, they would be under serious investigation.
On social media, Mr. Trump alleged agents knowingly confiscated privileged attorney-client material, writing, "I respectfully request that these documents be immediately returned."
This is a law enforcement matter, and the Department of Justice is going to move forward as they see fit.
Over the weekend, a bipartisan call for more transparency. Senate Intelligence Committee chairs Democrat Mark Warner and Republican Marco Rubio requested the release of the classified documents in question to committee members, along with an assessment of how their mishandling might impact national security. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Republicans are also calling on the DOJ to release the affidavit that led to that search warrant. At this time, no charges are filed against Trump. At least 8 people, including 5 Americans, are recovering from injuries this morning after a shooting targeting a bus near the Western Wall in Jerusalem. According to police, a terrorist shot at the bus and vehicles in a parking lot and then fled the scene before later returning and turning himself into authorities. The U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem said that they are shocked and saddened by that attack. 2 of the Americans were tourists. 2 people are in the hospital following a shooting outside a Six Flags amusement park in Illinois. At least 1 person was hurt. Park goers scrambled for cover as shots rang out around closing time Sunday night. A new rift is forming between farmers and environmentalists. That's because farmers say if a new bill requiring companies to better report their climate data becomes law, it can mean that we all pay more for our food. Reporter Joe St. George brings us the latest.
So there's one silk for every kernel of corn.
It's a good crop year for Cy Prettyman, and while I believed him outside the field,
A lot of ears in here.
I really believed him while in it.
Feels like we're in the jungle.
Yeah.
But as much as I'd like to just talk about corn, I'm on Cy's farm today to talk about the SEC. And no, I'm not talking about the college football conference. In government, the SEC stands for the Securities and Exchange Commission. They're tasked with regulating Wall Street and publicly traded companies. The agency has proposed a rule to force those companies to start telling their investors about their climate data, emissions, and risks. You might be wondering, what does Wall Street have to do with Cy's farm in Ohio?
Farmers and ranchers have never been regulated by the SEC.
Cy's concern is that farms often do business with publicly traded companies that may, under this proposed rule, demand farmers start providing details on how much emissions are coming out of their tractors, for example.
These closing wheels come through.
It tells me the typical farmer
These are basically just the tractor controls.
doesn't have the time or the staff to do that.
We've only got limited resources on our farm to do what we do.
Of course, there is another side to this debate, some believing that the country needs to start holding all businesses more accountable for their emissions. And yes, that includes the family farm.
People have died because of climate change.
Stephen Rothstein is with Ceres, a nonprofit focused on making the economy more sustainable. He says the heat from the past few weeks is reason enough to focus more on the climate. If companies must report, it may promote change, he says.
I'm not saying companies have to do certain things for climate. All it says they have to disclose, so then their investors, the market, their owners, can make decisions whether they feel that's good or not.
Rothstein expects a final rule by the SEC by the end of the year, and he suspects there may be changes to make the smaller contributors to companies like family farms exempt.
It's always tough.
As for Cy, who's with the Ohio Farm Bureau, he says farmers will be watching this closely. Lawsuits will likely follow if farms are not exempt, and he says possible increases in food prices may occur, especially if he has to start telling the SEC how much CO2 was emitted from dropping fungicide on this crop.
Potentially that leads to higher costs for the consumer.
In New Bloomington, Ohio, I'm Joe St. George.
All right, and before we take a break on this Monday, it is time to introduce you to this month's awaiting child. Cheyenne is a sports-loving teen with a soft spot for pets.
This month, we're in Butte to meet a young lady named Cheyenne. She is an animal lover, a loyal friend, and loves to fill her time with activities.
I like to do gymnastics, volleyball. I like to read, sing and dance, color and draw, and diamond art.
With Cheyenne's love for animals, she'd love to have a family who has pets.
My favorite animals are horses, ponies, cats, kittens, puppies, dogs, bunnies, and hamsters.
More than anything, Cheyenne is hoping to find a loving, forever family.
A good family look like for me is always being there for you, helping you out on schoolwork or homework, always being there for you when you get home from a friend's house, and always be there for you if you need help with anything. Because I never had a forever family before that just wanted me in their family, and I just kind of wanted one.
All right, and you can learn more about fostering and adoption by calling 1-866-9-FOSTER.